Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5 a.m. Club. It's Saturday morning and it's a spectacular, glorious Sydney winter's morning. I'm down here at Cockle Bay, Darling Harbour. As you can see, it's just wonderful. It's quiet, it's peaceful, not a breath of air, and it's going to be one of those fantastic weekends that we get to enjoy in this part of the world. What I want to do this morning is go through yet another one of my book summaries, and the book that I've selected to talk about this morning is entitled 10x is easier than 2x. 10x is easier than 2x, and it's written and published by a dual authorship of Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Harding. So what is this book all about? What we'll do is we'll go on a walk and talk and just have a chit chat about some of the key points and see where it can lead us, see what we can glean from this book that was created through deep thinking. Because whenever you read stuff that has been written and documented and captured in books, you've got to understand that it comes from deep thinking, where people have actually thought deeply about certain topics, have contemplated it and captured it in their writing. And when we talk about deep thinking, what we're actually saying is that people are actually connecting with their inner self, with their soul, and when they write, it's something which is, which comes from a different place, as I suggested, but also has a different substance. So it's quite powerful just to think that we can, at any point in time, access knowledge, wisdom that has transcended the ages and is time-tested and just as relevant today as what it was in yesteryear. Just to put things into perspective, this book here is hot off the press. It's only just hit the markets. It's only been around for a couple of months, and one of the beauties of Jim's 5 a.m. Club is that I can summarise and present book summaries faster than what most people even get to find out whether or not this book is available. So you're hearing it here probably first before you can hear it anywhere else. And as I mentioned before, I have a huge library, a library of over 1,555 videos that I've published over the past 3 or 4 years, ever since COVID commenced. And I take the material, I present it, and I overlay it with some of my own experience and supplement it with information and knowledge that I've been able to glean from other book summaries that I've presented. So to put into perspective, my library, my Jim's 5 a.m. Club library, is probably one of the biggest of its kind in the world. As I said, this is number 1,555. So in terms of material, in terms of product, there is nobody who comes close to the amount of work and to the commitment that I have been able to put together and to generate. And it comes to you free of charge. As I say, I do it because I enjoy doing it. It's not something that I make money out of. It's not something that I seek to push onto anybody. But by the same token, if you know anybody who has a need to grow and develop, my library of information, my library of logs, has a lot of variety, and I cover a lot of topics across the board. And I see myself as an emissary, as a messenger who's able to take stuff and to represent it and to pass it on in an attempt to allow us all to grow and develop, because I am growing and developing by reading this. But the best way to learn anything is to teach it, is to pass it on, is to attach the unknown to the known. Because the more you learn, the more you teach, the more you're capable of learning, and the more you're capable of teaching. Anyway, let's get back to this book. So this book basically puts forward the thesis that it's easier to grow exponentially than what it is to grow incrementally. And you can achieve more by doing less. And that 10x, so a 10 times growth, is easier than just achieving a 2 times growth or a doubling in size. What we're talking about here is quantum growth versus incremental growth. And the author here reminds us that it's all about a mindset, and there's nothing holding you back other than the way you see and the way you contemplate things. And if you're able to change your mindset, change your focus, change your effort, not necessarily working harder but working smarter, then the rewards are potentially unlimited. And what the author here also tells us, and I love this point here, that what we're talking about here really is counterintuitive, because most people seem to think that the best way to grow is to grow step by step, incrementally. And whilst incremental growth is the safe way to grow and potentially can get you, or get most people, to a better place than what they were, if you're seeking big growth, if you're seeking massive outcome in your life, then you may need to do something differently, which doesn't really make sense, but at the end of the day has tremendous outcomes. Because when it's all said and done, the best way to grow is to grow with the help of people and through people. We need to have multiple increments happening in parallel at the same time. And the author here tells us that incremental growth has a disadvantage, because with incremental growth, our mindset is that everything seems important and everything needs to be calibrated and moved incrementally at the same time, which is a bit tricky to do because it requires a lot of coordination and a lot of cooperation and collaboration, which is not always available. But with the 10x growth mindset, what the author here tells us is that it's more to do with the 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle, that we focus our efforts on those things that have the biggest bang for the buck, the biggest bang for the buck, let me say it again, and the highest return on our investment. And we can actually grow much quicker, much bigger, much faster if we have the mindset that we can harness the opportunities amongst a few key ingredients, and make sure that we're not holding back, or that when we're doing things, we allow the process to expand and to explode. As my stockbroker always says, the best place to be is to be positioned in front of potential explosive growth. So you need to spend your efforts scouring the markets, scouring the universe, looking for places where there's going to be tremendous growth or growth potential, and positioning yourself there and doing what's necessary to make the most of that potential. And the same thing these authors are telling us, that you need to make the most and to really release the handbrakes within the process, release the handbrakes of those ingredients or those elements that potentially have the biggest opportunity for you to grow and to expand, and to focus on those and to grease those skids, so that when momentum starts to build, it will take off and explode in all directions, and you just need to buckle yourself in and hold on and make the most of it. So what the author here is suggesting in terms of the mindset is we need to focus on the very, very few things that make the biggest impact, because what happens in reality, and this is a powerful point, what happens in reality is that at the grassroots level, at the elementary level, at the entry level, there's lots and lots of competition. There are lots of people vying for the opportunities, for the limited opportunities that exist because of the competition. But once you get to the next level and the next few levels above that, then the competition decreases and diminishes, and you've got more time to think, more time to act, and the returns on the investment are significantly greater. For example, across the harbour there, where we used to have Harbourside, the Darling Harbour precinct, there was a shopping centre there, and a developer in conjunction with Mirvac bought out that existing shopping centre. They demoed it, they demolished it, and as you can see, it's all been demolished, and they're going to build a new precinct there. And it all makes sense, like it all makes common sense. Anybody could see that that is a great development site and a great opportunity. But not everybody has the money, not everybody has the experience to be able to do it. But the people who are in that sort of space have limited competition, and they're able to flex their muscle and do things which are going to have a significantly bigger return on their investment than anything that I could do at my level, so to speak. So once again, in everything we do, you need to understand that the more you grow, the bigger you get, the better you get, the less competition you have at that point. So the key message is just to keep on growing and to think bigger and more expansive, rather than to think about things being in scarcity. So once again, the author here encourages us and invites us and welcomes us to have an abundance mindset as opposed to a scarcity mindset, to have a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset, and to understand that quality and innovation lead to bigger returns and bigger outcomes, because it's all about mastery and doing a few things very, very well, and in order to be effective before you can become efficient. One of the big problems that people face is that they try and become efficient well before they become effective, and what they do is they sow the seeds of their destruction at that very point, at that very mindset. If you're going to do anything, you need to throw everything at it from the beginning, not holding back, not putting on the handbrake, not thinking too much from a safety perspective in terms of what if and what that. You've got to be effective. So if you're going to do something, make sure you do it right, make sure you do it correctly, because if you don't do it like that, if you do it trying to be too efficient too early, what you'll end up with will be a stillbirth in terms of the project. So don't be worried, and throw caution to the wind, and just do what you have to do to be effective. And once you're effective, once you get something happening and you start to build momentum and start to build skills and capability, then and only then you should look at ways of doing it better. The important thing, as we said here, the important thing to learn is we've got to do things right. We've got to make sure that we're doing things and getting the outcomes before we can start cutting costs, cutting corners, and trying to get sexy with our delivery. First, be effective, and only when you are effective, then and only then you should start looking at the process, looking at ways of doing it more efficiently, but not the other way around. Because an increase, as the author says here, an increase in quality, an increase in focus will deliver greater results. And 10x goals are much easier to achieve than 2x goals, because all we need to do to get the 10x outcomes is to go really, really deep and really, really good on a couple of items, a couple of elements. And we need to do radically fewer things much, much better, and to embrace abundance and reject scarcity, to reject the scarcity mindset. And we need to once again get clear on our purpose, get clear on what our calling is, and to deliver on that calling, and to make sure that we are aligned, totally aligned with our calling, with our goals, with our plans, and with our actions. Because if we don't have congruence in everything we do, if we're not aligned, then we're wasting our time, because we're spinning our wheels and we don't have clarity, and we don't really show that we have clarity. And when people around you realize that what you're doing is muddled and it's not clear, then you won't get the necessary support that you need in order to deliver the 10x results and to be a leader in your field. And the other thing that the author says here is that it's important to understand that we don't need to justify anything to anyone. As long as what we're doing is serving God and showing and supporting our neighbours, then once you've got that, once you're doing things that are God-pleasing, then you can go as hard as you want and know that if it's God's will that you succeed and what you're doing is indeed God-pleasing, then you will get the outcomes delivered in manifold terms. So the author then goes on to talk about a thing called your unique ability. Each person needs to understand what their unique ability is, what they're really, really good at. And we are all different from each other, and we're different from each other so that we can be different for each other. It's important to understand that we're not all good at everything, and some people are better, much, much better at certain things than what other people are. So the mark of a great entrepreneur is the person who can focus, who can identify what their strengths are and what other people's strengths are, and to take those strengths and to combine them, to bring them together so that you can generate better outcomes than what you could have generated if you didn't have that skill set in and of yourself, and to harness the skills and greatness of those around you. So we need to identify our unique ability. Jay Abrahams called it the USP, the unique selling proposition. And we need to understand what other people's unique capabilities are and unique abilities are, so that we can marry up with those, we can work with them, we can collaborate with them to generate better outcomes. Because at the end of the day, if you're not expressing your calling, if you're not expressing your strengths, then you're not really living the life that you were designed, that you're called to live. Now, if you're living the life that your parents wanted you to live, if you're living the life that your partner wants you to live, if you're living the life that other people want you to live, and you're not living the life that expresses your calling, your unique abilities, then there is a problem there, and you're going to feel unfulfilled, you're going to feel empty, and you're not going to live the life that you were called to live, and you're going to be unhappy, you're going to be depressed, you're going to be anxious, and you're going to look back on your life and be unhappy in the long term. So the call to action from this author is that we need to, where possible, express our calling, combine our strengths and use our strengths, and to also go through and remind ourselves what we're good at and what we were good at in the past. Because in our pasts, we all have examples of 10x growth spurts, and you need to remember those, you need to look at those and see at some point in time you weren't as good as what you thought you were going to be, but one day it all clicked, it all came together, and what you thought was impossible and difficult and not all that comfortable in doing becomes ever so easy, and you become ever so graceful in what you do, to the point where it looks like you're doing it with effortless perfection. But you need to work, you need to do, you need to invest time, you need to invest effort in your growth and development until you get to a point where you have these unique capabilities and abilities, and then you need to spend some time expressing them rather than having them sit latent in the background and wasting your life and wasting the opportunity to express your capabilities, I guess is one way of saying it, and to do the things that are God-pleasing. Because at the end of the day, once again, everybody seems to have the same old common themed message. You are what you focus on, and what you focus on, you become. So each person has a fate, and because it didn't work for your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your uncle, your aunt, grandparents, your work peers and other people, just because it didn't work for you in the past doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you if you try it one more time. Because as we said, each and every person has a fate, and whilst the timing may not be right when you did it in the past, maybe the next time that you try it will be the time that you hit the jackpot and you get all the rewards that you're expecting. So continue to dream big, continue to dream and think 10x, continue to focus on those few things that have the greatest impact, and to know that your turn will come or it may not come. At the end of the day, it's up to God's will, but you need to test God's will on a regular basis. And after a certain point in time, after you've tried and tested different angles and different methods and approaches, and you still see that you're not achieving your dreams or the things that you want to achieve, then maybe there's a message there, maybe there's a clue there that it's not God's will, and it's time for you to move on, to try something else, to once again do the things that are going to help you express yourself to the best of your ability. Just keep trying is the key message. And the next message that the author tells us is sometimes we just need to back off. Sometimes we need to take a holiday. Sometimes we need to try less, because by trying less, you can actually gain more. The author here talks about taking time off for recreation. And the word recreation or holiday means that you're basically taking time off to think about things, to think about your purpose, to think about where you sit in the world, to connect with God, and to see and to pray and to hope, to get guidance in terms of what God's will is for you. But sometimes by backing off and spending time investing in yourself and recreating, then you're going to have additional energy and additional insights to be able to do the things much better and in a much focused way. Whilst it sounds counterintuitive, sometimes trying too hard to achieve certain things actually works as a deterrent, actually works against you. So try sometimes backing off, try slowing down before you accelerate. Because I guess what I learned in sport, what I learned in martial arts, is that if you're operating at 100% all the time, if you're attacking aggressively all the time, if you're moving quickly all the time, then your opponent is ready for you. But martial arts, karate, is all about hard, soft, fast, slow. So you need to change your tempo, because by you changing your tempo, your opponent is also forced to change their tempo, which may not advantage them, and throws their timing out. So try going quick, try going slow. As I say to a lot of people, I'm happy to run as quick or as slow as you need me to run. And the same thing happens with opportunity. You know, you sometimes need to go quick, other times you need to go slow, but it varies. And only you can determine how to go about it. But think about it. Don't go hard, don't go strong all the time. It's an ebb and flow. It's a dance that you need to be able to do without treading on your opponent's toes or your partner's toes, and getting the rhythm, getting the movement, and acting when you need to act, and backing off when it's no advantage in overacting and getting too involved. Which takes us to the next point, is that it's important also to back off from the people around you and to build a self-managed team, getting and gaining results through people, and not micromanaging the process, not micromanaging the people, not oppressing those around you, but allowing them to freely express themselves, to reward themselves, to be rewarded, to be recognized, and to feel as if they're making a contribution and wanting to be partnering with you on your projects and what you're doing. So we need to give people, our children, our grandchildren, our parents, everybody around us, we need to give them room to grow and develop, and not to hold on too tightly to life, not to fight life, not to fight the people around us, but to work with them, to dance with them, to follow the rhythm and the beat of the music, and not to be out of sync and out of kilter, because what you'll do is you'll upset everybody around you, and you'll impact the results and the way in which you fit in to the puzzle. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's episode number 1500 and either 55 or 56. I think it's number 56, 1556. I just can't believe that I started just as a concept during COVID, where I was driving along and I just put my camera on the dash and just talked about a story. And I've got to the point now where I have the biggest library of self-development videos with the most variety potentially in the world. So please have a look, log on to YouTube, type in Jim's 5am Club and subscribe and hit the bell and pass it on, share it with others as well, because there is an opportunity for us to grow and develop and to become partners in each other's growth and development, and to use this opportunity to learn something new on a daily basis. As I tell my daughters, if you listened to one vlog a week, it would take you 30 years or more to get through the library of videos that I have amassed, which is a huge it's a huge number. You know, it surprised me. As I say, I still cannot believe that I've been able to achieve what I achieved, but I did it by 10x thinking. You know, I just started. I set myself a goal of doing 1,000 in a year. At some point, I was doing 10 vlogs a day, 10 book summary vlogs a day. And I got to my 1,000 in the first year, and I've backed off and I do one a day now, every now and then. I've just taken 3 months off to recreate, as the author talked about there. And I've come back with a vengeance. And I do believe that the videos that I do from now on are going to be much, much better in quality, in substance, than the ones that I've done before. And hopefully I will be able to continue to improve and to continue to generate the videos, the book summaries that are going to help me continue to grow and develop, and others to learn along the way as well. Take care everybody, yasas, and bye for now.